Away we go on a Wednesday, Mr. Relevant. With you, I'm Alex Strouf from the Gruber Office's One Call Outsole Studio at the Avenue downtown Milwaukee. Joshy DiMaggio here, as always, will join us in just a few moments. And Tiny Hands Hunter Vaughn back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison on this Wednesday, January 29, 2025, episode 209 of Mr. Relevant. So we talked about it Monday. Super Bowl is set. It's Chiefs-Eagles coming up in about a week and a half from New Orleans and the Superdome down there. It's a fun Super Bowl. You know, I think we're crabby, a day removed from championship weekend on Monday saying, this is boring. It's the Chiefs. They're in it every year. It's a three-peat. We just saw this Super Bowl 2 years ago. No, you know what? I'm over it. I'm all in. I am excited for this game because I think at the end of the day, when you feature two teams that were really good all year, and I think we would agree, right? These are the two best teams in the NFL. That's fun. So I'm over the crabbiness. I'm over being disappointed. I'm over, hey, the Packers could have gotten... I'm not doing any of that anymore. It's Chiefs-Eagles, and I'm excited about it. That's how I'm going to start today's show. Hunter, I can already tell. You're going to tell me you're not excited, would be my guess?
I mean, I'm not excited if the game starts going the way of the Eagles because I don't want to deal with that garbage fan base and everything that has to come with Philly. The thing with people complaining about this Super Bowl is that the same guys that complain about it say the Chiefs win their third straight and they become the first team to win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. They'll be the same guys telling their kids about how, I watched that team. They were so good. Patrick Mahomes was incredible. Right. It's the same way that my dad talks about watching Magic Johnson and Larry Bird when he was younger. It's the exact same thing. People were upset then when those guys were winning and it was just those two teams and the Celtics and the Lakers. It's the same thing now. Get over it. Just embrace it. Just be in the moment of what you're watching and just go with it. I don't get being, and this is rich coming from me, but I don't get being so mad about the Chiefs being good. And I say that after as we were off air getting ready for this show, complaining about the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, well, you do that. And look, that's life of a fan. At some point over the course of the next hour, I'm going to complain about the Packers because we're going to talk a lot of Packers today. I've got a lot on my mind related to the Green Bay Packers today. But that's kind of my big thought that I want to start today with. I'm excited for the Super Bowl. If you're not, that's okay. And I would love to hear from you why on YouTube at ESPN Milwaukee, at ESPN Madison. Excited to be with you on this Wednesday, on a beautiful Wednesday, might I add. It's gorgeous outside today. Hunter, you're not a shorts in the winter guy, are you?
No, absolutely not. People that do that are weird. It's kind of like the guys that have the way bigger truck than they need. You're overcompensating for something. We get it, bro. You're tough. You're cool. Great.
Is it? And look, I know he's on a cruise and he's out of the country, so I can't even text him and ask him. But isn't Jesse Nelson a shorts when it's cold out guy? I might be making that up.
I think he's shorts when it's chilly out. It'll be upper 40s. Dudes coming in November still wearing shorts, which I'm I get it to a point because the studio does get warm. It just kind of happens. I've got 5 different computers within 6 feet of me. It gets warm in here, but people who are just out and about and I'm in Target and I got a guy wearing shorts. What are we doing, bro? Stop it.
Hey, that's a fair gripe. I can't blame you one bit for that. Okay, so all in on the Super Bowl. Let me know if you're not, but let's move on to the Green Bay Packers in the offseason because I am not a poet. I am not a poetry reader, but there actually is a line that sticks with me, and I can't remember exactly what it's from, but it is something to the effect of, rumors are nothing more than what jealous people hope are true, right? So rumors are started because, number one, there's usually not a ton of validity behind them. But it is the NFL offseason. There was always movement in the NFL offseason, whether that be via trade, free agency, the draft, etc. So the rumor mill starts swirling. And we're seeing the same, obviously, in the NBA as well, right? Jimmy Butler and De'Aaron Fox and all these names, Bradley Beal, that could be shipped come, I think it's a week from today, the February 6th deadline. the NBA trade deadline. So obviously the rumor mills in both those sports are swirling. But I want to focus specifically on the Packers and the world of the NFL for a moment, because we've got the Senior Bowl going on right now in Mobile, Alabama. So a ton of general managers and coaches and scouts from every NFL team are down there looking at, obviously, who they're going to be looking at here in a couple of months when the NFL draft comes to Green Bay. There was a picture on Tuesday that started making the rounds from the Senior Bowl in Alabama. And it was a picture of Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst, who was posted up a couple times, different times throughout the day, with the Raiders contingency, including their brand new general manager, a Wisconsin native, John Spytek. Now, people are taking these pictures that are all over social media of Goody and the Raiders crew and saying, ooh, they must be talking about Max Crosby and how the Packers are going to find a way to acquire the stud defensive end and pass rusher, Max Crosby. So, sure. I mean, could it be what they're talking about? Maybe, but probably not, right? Like when Goody and Spytek are in the same vicinity, do you think they're talking more about cheese curds, broths, and Miller Lite? Or are they talking about, hey, man, what's it going to take? What is it going to take for me to get Max Crosby on my team? I think the former is probably more true than the latter, but I would prefer the latter to get true, because as a jealous person, I am jealous of the Raiders and Raiders fans, despite how bad they are, that they have a field tilter and a game changer on defense. One the Packers desperately need as they get into the 2025 season. The pass rush was an issue all season long. And as we've talked about the last couple of weeks, it became more evident in the divisional round and then the championship round that great teams, Super Bowl teams, can win in the trenches, both on offense and especially on defense. Pressure the quarterback, get after the quarterback, get into the backfield. It's something the Packers struggled with this year, despite a vast improvement defensively. They became a top 5 unit this year overall in terms of points allowed. They didn't sack the quarterback a ton outside of 2 games where those stats were inflated. They did create more turnovers this year, but pass rush was the main issue. They just didn't have the production out of Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Essen year 2 and Kenny Clark that they had hoped for when making this scheme change and defensive coordinator change to Jeff Hafley. So the rumor mill is going to swirl through free agency, through the draft, and into training camp. Can the Packers acquire a game changer? So when you see Brian Gutekunst trotting around Alabama with Raiders' new general manager John Spytek, of course fans are going to jump to the conclusion of, how are they going to get this deal done? Spoiler alert, they're probably not going to. And I hope I eat those words for the record. I hope the Packers do find a way to pull this off. But what's the cost of Max Crosby? Is it a first-round pick? Is it a second-round pick? Is it a first and a fourth? Like, I don't know what the cost is. If it is reasonable, A, you finally have the money to do it and to be able to pay somebody like that. But B, does that take you from a wild card team to a Super Bowl team? Maybe. It certainly helps you trend in the right direction. That's rumor 1. Rumor 2 over the course of the last 48 hours is about that other big need on offense this time for the Packers. The frustration that a number 1 pass catcher did not emerge in 2024 for the Green Bay Packers. There's a guy that might be on the market this offseason. DK Metcalf, the star receiver of the Seattle Seahawks, could be moved this offseason. If you're watching on the video side, you just see an article that Acme Packing Company just wrote. DK Metcalf makes a lot of sense for the Packers. Hey, he does. But does it make a lot of sense for John Schneider to send him back to Schneider's hometown and the Packers? I don't know that it does. Now, should the Packers, if possible, pursue the idea and try to make attempts at trading for DK Metcalf? I'd be open to it as a Packers fan. Because if all of a sudden you've got DK Metcalf, and then you've got Jaden Reed operating out of the slot, and you've got Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks, and obviously later in the 2025 season when Christian Watson returns, That's a pretty good group of pass catchers at the wide receiver position for Jordan Love to be slinging the pill to. So by all means, if DK Metcalf is a realistic option, yes, I'm open to it. But as fans, for at least a couple of weeks, we need to hit the pause button and realize that this offseason is not going to bring Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, and all the in-betweens to Green Bay. That's not happening. Could one of them happen? I'd put a strong maybe on that. I'm not thinking that's happening for a fact, but I am thinking it's a strong maybe. But my question to you is today, and we will get to some of your comments throughout the show a little bit later, if just one of those guys, and maybe it's a name I mentioned, and maybe it's not a name I mentioned, who do you want to see the Packers trade for? Now, this is not free agency. I've talked about a couple different guys I would be open to the Packers looking at in free agency, whether that's Khalil Mack or DJ Reed at corner, or obviously T. Higgins is a name we've brought up a lot at wide receiver. If the Packers are to make a trade, try to keep it realistic, and I think these are. It's just Max Crosby's a little bit far-fetched. I don't know if DK Metcalf's super available, but if the asking price is right, of course I'm open to it. Who would you like to see the Packers trade for? Because that is something I think we're going to be talking a lot about. I think that is something we're going to be thinking a lot about over the course of the next couple months as we lead up in March to free agency and ultimately the draft in April. As Brian Gutekunst continues to construct this roster and try to build it from a wild card team to a championship team, what moves do you want to see? Is it trading for a receiver? Is it trading for an edge rusher? Is it investing in free agency? Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you want to see. ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison on YouTube is your way to chime in. You can also get us on Twitter at Alex_Strouf. If you want to DM me on Instagram, you're more than welcome at Strouf ESPN. I am fascinated by the rumor mill. And look, let's go back to the sentence I led with. Rumors are nothing more than what jealous people hope are true. I hope this is true. If the Packers tried out DK Metcalf on offense and Max Crosby on defense next year, holy smokes, will I be insufferable. It's not going to happen. But I'm open to the idea of that. But just keep in mind, these are nothing more than just that. Rumors. DK Metcalf, Max Crosby, T. Higgins, the rumors right now. I'm not saying, I will never say never. I'm not saying they won't happen. But let me know what you think on that. Now, I want to stick with the general manager, Brian Gutekunst, because Rob Demovsky did a terrific job on ESPN.com this week breaking down Brian Gutekunst and the nice job he's done for the Packers since taking over as the general manager in 2018. Something I think we can all agree on. Let me rephrase. Something I think almost all of us can agree on is Brian Gutekunst has done a nice job as the Packers general manager since taking over for the late Ted Thompson in 2018. His first-round picks, certainly the big blemish, right? Outside of Jair Alexander and Jordan Love, his first-round picks have been underwhelming and disappointments. Or both, right? Darnell Savage, Rashawn Gary, Eric Stokes, Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Lucas Van Ness. Most of those have been disappointments. Jordan Morgan, too early to tell on him. Hopefully he can, maybe he slots in next year and becomes a starter and has a really nice long career. I'm not ruling that out. Too early to tell on him. But Van Ness did not make the year two jump we had hoped for. Quay Walker, despite what Xavier McKinney said on a podcast this week, has not evolved into one of the top linebackers in the NFL. Devontae Wyatt had a nice start to this season, got hurt against Minnesota in late September, and just never really returned to form. Obviously, a guy like Eric Stokes, probably not going to be on the team next year. Darnell Savage, not on the team anymore. So some of these first-round picks have been complete flops, and that's the big blemish for Goody. But overall, in his tenure since 2018, Brian Gutekunst has done a nice job as the general manager of the Packers, including this past offseason, signing Xavier McKinney, signing Josh Jacobs, helping bring in some really crucial pieces to help this team get from 9 wins to 11 wins. Now we look at, and what Rob Demovsky did on ESPN.com was take a look at his plan. When you move on from a Hall of Fame quarterback, obviously the expectations go away, at least to a point. So Goody at that point built out a 3-year plan and a 5-year plan. And while this article gets into some of the decisions he has made and some of the improvements they have made as we enter year 3, thus being the 3-year plan, where things lie, right? I think we can all agree, not this past season, but the year before, 2023, Jordan Love's first season as the starter, they were ahead of expectations. They made the playoffs. They won a playoff game on the road at Hunter's Cowboys, and they were right in the game with the eventual NFC champion 49ers last year. That was ahead of schedule. This year, I think, was probably on par with schedule. Playoff team, bounce out in the wild card round. And I'm not saying that's what they were expecting in the moment, but in terms of when he created this 3-year plan, that's probably what par for the course was. Now, year 3, and Goody has been on the record many times saying he doesn't believe in a championship window, but per these plans, this is kind of the real beginning of the championship window. And as Packers fans, and as a Packers fan myself, I won't speak for everybody else, but myself, I feel as if the championship window is open. Some things need to be done this offseason. And some of those things we just talked about in the rumor mill, right? Need to shore up that pass rush. Could really use a bolster at number 1 pass catcher. And a couple other things. Obviously, cornerback is a position of need, whether that be through the draft free agency or both for Green Bay. So some things do obviously need to happen this offseason. I do intend and anticipate the Packers will be active in trying to improve. But he's done a nice job so far. Now, as we get into year 3 of this year 3 plan, and as we approach year 4 and year 5 of this 5-year plan for Brian Gutekunst, has he done enough, and do you trust him to do enough to get this team over the hump? At the beginning of Goody's tenure, it was a rough go. He had to move on from some veterans that meant a ton to this team, including Jordy Nelson. He had to change head coaches, right? Mike McCarthy's final year was Brian Gutekunst's first year in charge of the Packers. Matt LaFleur comes in. They make NFC championship games. Aaron Rodgers is winning MVPs, and then they move on. So all in all, Goody's been a winning GM. He has made the right moves for the most part outside of his first-round picks. And now it's go time. You know, there was a really nice part in this piece by Demovsky that talks about how Goody's vision with bringing in a young quarterback, drafting a quarterback in 2020 who eventually became a starter, is that bought him some time, right? He was sitting behind Rodgers. That bought Love some time and bought Goody some time to go draft other young players that Love can, quote-unquote, grow up with. And grow up with them he has. Right? Look at Tucker Kraft. Look at Jaden Reed. Look at Dontavian Wicks. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, right? These weapons around him are growing up with him. As Love hopefully ascends into a superstar quarterback in this league, these guys alongside him are homegrown and it can also develop into superstars of sorts. So I thought this article, and if you haven't read it, you can find it at ESPN.com. Just click the Packers tab, and it'll be the first article that pops up. It's a really interesting read. It's a longer read, but it's really fascinating to hear the thought process of these game plans and the way in which this team will develop, you know, into from a wild card team 2 years in a row to winning an NFC North again, to maybe becoming the 1 seed in the NFC again. Now, it's not the ins and outs. It's not a detailed, rundown of exactly what Brian Gutekunst has written down and has told the guys he works closest with, but it is an overarching kind of 30,000-foot view at, okay, this isn't just a guy that's walking in and day by day trying to figure this out. This is a guy who has a very strategic plan to get this team back to a Super Bowl. I believe in Goody. I believe in everybody in Green Bay right now. But after this year, I could understand why some people would say, I'm a little concerned about Matt LaFleur's play calling. Or I'm a little worried about Jordan Love's future in the league. I think those are fair criticisms. And we're going to get to Jordan Love in a minute because we have a really great idea by Hunter. I don't give Hunter credit sometimes. Got to give Hunter credit today because when we get into this Jordan Love conversation, this is a really smart thought and heady play by Tiny Hands as we revisit something we talked about way back in June about the Packers quarterback. So I would understand, some of the criticism and some of the apprehension for this team taking the next step. But this article is really good insight into, okay, it's go time. And hearing Brian Gutekunst's season-ending press conference a couple weeks ago tells you there's a little bit of a sense of urgency in that building right now. You can't just sit and say, okay, that was good enough, right? Wild card 2 years in a row, woohoo, we're a playoff team, yay. That's not how this works, right? Championships is what Green Bay cares about. And it's been a long time now. 2010, the last time the Packers won the Super Bowl. The window is open, but the right moves need to be made. Hunter, go ahead.
But do you trust him in the sense of, okay, if the right moves need to be made, he's going to go and get somebody in a veteran position? Because, like, there's a certain point where you can't wait for Lucas Van Ness to develop anymore. You can't wait for Jaden Reed to make that next step if everyone else on the roster is ready to go and you just don't have that receiver or a legitimate pass rusher. And then you have to give up draft capital. Like, that's just what has to happen. The Rams showed that they did it, and it got them a Super Bowl. Like, there's a certain point where I think Goody's got to stop going by what's always worked for getting in the playoffs and take a bit of a leap. Because I wouldn't blame the guy if he went out and sent a high draft pick to go and get a veteran receiver or edge rusher to try and get the team over the hump. Like, that's okay. It doesn't work out, but then just admit, like, oh, okay, it didn't work out. We're trying to make those moves because we want to get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, so really good follow-up and a good thought by you. So, number one, do I trust him to do it? I think so, right? Like, I trust that he can go out and improve this team one way or another. Now, would it be the level of the names we talked about when we referenced the rumor mill? Will it be a DK Metcalf? Will it be a Max Crosby? I don't know. I think those are two names that will also be heavily looked at by other teams in the league. But the one thing with Goody, and really this Packers team going into 2025, is we've got to stop doing this team is young thing, or they're the youngest team in the league thing. Because this is going to be year 3 as a starter for Jordan Love, and year 7 in the league? Or year 6 in the league, rather? So, he's not a young quarterback anymore. Like, this is a dude who's established, and it has plenty of time under his belt now in the league. Same with those receivers. Now, when it comes to the number one pass catcher, that is the one position still, Hunter. And, now that Joshy's done being a company man off his company call, I would love to get his thoughts on what I'm about to say. The position I feel most comfortable with, waiting on a jump without making any external moves, is still wide receiver. I think they need to address pass rush. They need to address corner externally. I after we did it last year, obviously, I still have some pause of can Jaden Reed, just to use him as the example, can he evolve into a true number one receiver in the league? I still have some pause, but if they are just to sit still at wide receiver and they are to make some moves at edge and corner, I would still feel okay going into 2025. Joshy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a depth thing, really. You would arguably there is depth at.
Wow, your head is just. You look like you're floating.
I texted
head on
him
YouTube right now. That's a good look for him.
Yeah, he's pulling. He's looking like Kyler Murray there.
Good pull. Good pull. It was a floating like half beard for Joshy there. Sorry, Joshy, to interrupt you. Continue.
There is depth at wide receiver that makes you feel better. I feel no better about high-end, top-end production for the wide receivers than I do defensive ends. You've paid and drafted defensive ends, but the production between the two positions, if you were to quantify them, is probably pretty equal. You would even probably give a slight edge to the wide receiver position in that spot, just because there were games where individuals looked like wide receiver ones, be it Romeo Doubs, be it Christian Watson or Jaden Reed at times. I think what you have to determine is which one of those is easier to buy, because that's basically what you're doing at this level. You are either buying it via trade or buying it via free agency. And the right opportunities have to come at the right time. You also have to worry about allocation of funds. How much money are you going to spend on this defensive end project, knowing that the Rashawn Gary thing might end up being like an all-time mistake in terms of contract? The Kenny Clark thing, not necessarily end, but it all factors in there. The wide receivers have gotten a lot of draft capital, but how much of it has truly been top end? Christian Watson is really the biggest investment, and then you go to Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs on Taven Wicks.
Yeah.
Like, what makes sense there, and how do you... The problem is those are, what are they, two of the top 5 paid positions between wide receiver and defensive end? Mm-hmm. Like, after tackle and quarterback, you're right up there with the highest paid.
Yeah.
So you have to try and sort of do both. I think you have to buy one or the other. One or the other needs to be trade or free agency, and you just spend the money, get it over with, here's how we're going to do it.
So I've never thought about it this way, and I mean it could be different for every general manager or front office in the NFL. But do you think they look at the monetary investment in the defensive line and they go, yeah, we've already invested too much there. We've got to look elsewhere. We can't put more money in that position group.
I think to an extent, because if you're spending so much money at one spot, naturally some other place would lack.
Right.
Like, you probably get away with having one of the cheaper tight end rooms in all of football just because you have one guy who's very good and another guy that you still are hopeful about in Luke Musgrave. But you can't do that everywhere.
Well, I guess just looking at defense, though. Right now, linebacker's pretty cheap. Right? Quay Walker's still on his rookie deal, his fifth-year option, likely going to be picked up. Obviously, Edgerrin Cooper is still operating on a rookie deal. McDuffie isn't that expensive. Eric Wilson isn't that expensive. So you're not spending a lot in the linebacker room right now if we're just looking at defense.
And now cornerback, probably after Jair is let off of that contract, is also going to be extremely cheap.
That's the one position. Actually, I think that's the position I want them to make the biggest splash. I'd be fine if it was edge or D-end. But corner worries me because Jair's likely not going to be here next year. He said it himself at his locker the day after the season ended. I mean, who's your number one corner right now? Nixon?
I mean, Keyshawn Nixon is campaigning to become the number one.
Carrington Valentine? I don't love that. Yeah, don't love that.
I think you need a high-end investment there as well. I think you could probably find it in the draft if you need to. I'm not as concerned. I think that is a competent unit more so than what we saw from the wide receivers, to be quite honest. And I think between Valentine, likely bringing Stokes back, and Nixon, like, those guys played pretty damn well. It wasn't Jair Alexander, like, all-pro good.
Fair.
But you didn't feel like, oh my God, we are at a disadvantage here because of these cornerbacks can't stay in front of anybody. When you watch the pass rush and towards the end of the season, the wide receiver room, it was like, we're getting nothing. We got nothing here. Jordan Love's dropping back, and who the hell is open? And it's time for a pass rush. No one's there.
Do you feel like, too, Strouf, if they were to get an actual, genuinely consistent edge rusher, that then the corners are going to look better because quarterbacks then have less time to throw, they're under more pressure. Like, I feel like that helps out the other area where you're like, oh, it's not great, where the D-line was bad this year. I mean, we talked about it on Wilde and Tausch. Their Pro Football Focus grades, like, the entire group regressed from the previous year. Like, that's not good. They need to upgrade there.
Yeah, your point is totally right. I mean, if you are constantly in the quarterback's face, corners are naturally going to look better. But the team that immediately comes to mind where I think if you don't have a top corner or a good corner or a serviceable corner, you're going to get burned. That's the Philadelphia Eagles. It's the team in the Super Bowl. And it's a team you're going to need to face, right? That's as far as I'm concerned, the Eagles are going nowhere, at least for the foreseeable future. And I would guess the Niners are likely back in the mix next year, too, and that's a good team. Now they're old and they've got some financial decisions to make out in San Francisco, so maybe you get one more year of them lacking a little bit, but they're going to reload at some point. They are such a well-run organization and well-coached team that they're going to be in the mix. So with those two teams in mind, number one, specifically Philadelphia, good offensive line. So naturally they're just going to buy at least a little bit more time for an elusive Jalen Hurts. They have really good pass catchers, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. If you don't have good corners on there, these are really high-level professionals. They're going to find ways to make plays. They're going to get theirs. So, yes, I think overall your point stands totally true, right? When you face, and you face the Ravens in the regular season next year, like that's a team where, okay, if you can get after Lamar and make Lamar run a little bit, like, yeah, I would feel okay about that, as good as he threw the football this year. When you're facing teams like Cleveland, who's not very good, or Chicago, I don't know that you need a number one corner. I don't think you need a top 5 corner in the league. But when you get down to the nitty gritty, and when we're talking about championships, which should be the expectation for this team the next couple of years, you need a serviceable pass rush, which you're already investing in, by the way, right? Like Rashawn Gary is making mega dollars. Kenny Clark is making mega dollars. Lucas Van Ness was a top 15 pick 2 years ago. Like, this is a line that on paper is paid like or invested in like it should be reckless and it should be game-changing and field tilting, but they just aren't.
Think about how the Eagles have built their team.
A lot of home. I mean, that's the best, debatably the best run organization of football.
Well, right, but what they've done is they started up front. They drafted Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean. You can even consider up front there, and then they said, "Well, we're really good there. Now let's move back. Let's move to our corners. Let's move to Cooper DeZean, Quinyon Mitchell, and like Reed Blankenship's fine, whatever." But those guys all are buttressed by the fact that their defensive line is one of the best. Saquon Barkley. We've seen Saquon Barkley. He's incredible. Very good. It's no coincidence that the best offensive line in the league is the one where they said, hey, we could put anyone here, and we did it with DeAndre Swift, who's a pretty mediocre running back, but when we supplement that with Saquon Barkley, it's now unstoppable.
Correct.
It's just I think you start up front, and like a good corner is essential, and good cornerback play is essential, and it's even more essential when your defensive front isn't that good. But I'm going to look to the big guys that are creating pressure every single time.
Yeah,
and just like quarterback, like you could have AJ Brown, you could have Devonta Smith, but if Joe Blow's back there, it doesn't matter a whole bunch. Like it hardly matters to have great wide receivers with no quarterback.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm so fascinated. I can't wait for free agency, and we're still like a month and a half away.
We're so far away. I had a take today. I want to hear where you guys stand on this.
Oh boy, this now here's the thing with Joshy. I imagine it's going to be Packers related.
Yes, yeah.
But this could be about life. No, this could be about
Packers related.
Okay, go ahead.
It was on Goody's plan and how we're still sort of in the process. Year 3 is about to hit us. I said that this is the biggest and career-defining offseason of Brian Gutekunst's career. That it is so essential to get right the decisions that he's going to make with that immense amount of salary cap and draft capital, that the future of the Packers, probably being a Super Bowl winning team or not, happens in these next few months before training camp starts.
I couldn't have said it any better myself.
Yeah.
I
totally
100% agree with you.
Which is crazy to think, because drafting Jordan Love, very important, very
super
big.
important for the trajectory of their future, right? Because if you go T. Higgins there, maybe there is a Super
Brandon
Bowl.
Ayuk.
Right. Is there a Super Bowl already? But Goody planned for the future. And right now, at least, despite, and we'll get to Jordan Love in just a moment, it looks like the right call.
Right. And then you also have transitioning from first ballot, probably unanimous Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers. And that was a big offseason, but the writing was on the wall. We all kind of saw it coming. Aaron Rodgers and him had, not amicably, but they had both divorced each other.
Not amicably.
No. They said, I'm done with you, you're done with me, let's move our separate ways. So I think in terms of what he does this year is going to basically not only determine his future, Jordan Love's future, and probably Matt LaFleur's.
Yeah. Dude, I fully agree. I think you nailed it, because, if they sit and do nothing, right, other than obviously the draft, but let's say they just kind of bring in, let's say like a third or fourth defensive end and maybe like a third or fourth corner, and they don't do anything at receiver, and they just kind of handle the draft as they typically do, right? Maybe draft an offensive lineman, draft a wide receiver in the 4th round. They're probably still a 10-win team. 11-win team.
Yeah, I don't think this team's going to regress.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
But that's why I say 10 or 11, right? Like that, right in the ballpark. They're probably the 7 seed again. Yeah.
I think the best thing
But then after that, I think it goes downhill, because then all of a sudden you have to make contract decisions on Dobbs and Watson and Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt. And all of a sudden, this starts snowballing really fast, where if you're not backfilling those guys, it could get really wonky. So there are a lot of big decisions to make for Goody this offseason.
I think, honestly, and it might serve as a blessing to Packers fans, and I don't want to doubt Goody, because, Rob Demovsky's not writing that 3-year, 5-year plan stuff just as fluff. Like, it's pretty obvious now, if you look at the scope of how things have gone, that there was a plan. And even though that first year wasn't called a rebuild, it was very obviously a rebuild. They just overachieved.
Yep.
But getting their ass beat that many times by good teams, I think forces the hand more so than if they have a similar season to last. Say they have 11 wins, but 2 of those wins come against the Lions and the Vikings. I think this team's looked at totally different. Like, oh, they were just there. They couldn't get it done. But getting your ass kicked every time you played a good team,
right,
sans the Houston Texans, I think makes it clear you have a good football team, but you aren't the elite and the top of the class.
You're not a great football team.
Yes.
Right? What we saw that were great football teams are teams that are playing in a week and a half.
Yeah.
Kansas City, Philadelphia, Buffalo. I would still call Baltimore a great team. I'm not ready to call the Commanders a great team because we saw what they did on Championship Sunday. Really great story and really bright future, but some of those guys that were making big plays for them are older, right? So I don't know how sustainable what's going on in Washington is, but the one big answer they got is they got their quarterback, and that's obviously the biggest piece of the puzzle for a rebuilding franchise like Washington. Great story, but not a great team yet. But could they be in the mix for years to come? Yeah, absolutely. When you have a quarterback playing at the level Jaden Daniels did in his rookie year, I would anticipate they'll be at least around for a while. But what separates great teams from good teams is field tilting players. And right now, it seems like the Packers do not have enough. This offseason could fix that.
I did find that nugget inside of that article of, I believe it was a GM from another team, said basically they're a playmaker or 2 away, which is like kind of the thing we've all been saying. So it's interesting to hear an NFL like front office guy, personnel guy being like, yeah, they're probably short of an important playmaker, to which Rob then dove into probably not wide receiver, likely to be corner or edge rusher.
Yeah.
I mean, edge rushers. What do? Do you just say, hey, Van Ness, put on 40 pounds and move inside and hopefully you can build yourself a career there?
No, I mean, like we've talked about the last couple of weeks, as you just said, right, this is the biggest offseason for Goody and the future of this team. It's also really important in the same way that he admits some of his shortcomings, right? Like Van Ness just isn't the guy we thought he was going to be so far. That's not to say Lucas Van Ness isn't going to end up having a nice NFL career. That's not at all what I'm saying. But as it stands right now, it's very clear he is not Myles Garrett or TJ Watt.
You make more of an impact by now.
You'd see more flashes, and
I mean, Brenton Cox Jr.
had a better season.
Yeah.
I memean, Eric Stokes had the same amount of sacks. Or not Eric Stokes. It was Keyshawn Nixon, the same amount of stats. Regardless, right? The point, it's laughable because it's true, though, right? Like, if I said Eric Stokes and Lucas Van Ness had the same amount of sacks this year, you'd go, 0?
Correct.
I think it was 2 each for him and Nixon.
I do want to be a little fair to Lucas Van Ness and what Josh just said here, like about him putting on weight. He's listed at 275. So honestly, if he were to put on 20 pounds, he could play the 3 technique at 295 in the NFL, and I think he'd be fine.
Certainly.
So he wouldn't need to go up to 320. Yeah. So
he is a large boy.
Yes. So I just wanted to be fair to him and not make it sound like for anyone.
20 pounds sounds a lot better.
Yeah,
I'm even more optimistic.
And the way that he kind of plays, like, you might actually be onto something, Josh. Like, I doubt he would do it because obviously edge rushers get paid. So he's like, if I can figure this out, like, that's a much better spot for me to be in. But he puts on 20 pounds, and especially if it's like 15 pounds of muscle, like, and he plays the 3 technique, that might be a better move for him to go inside. But he doesn't have to deal with the center guard double teams and all that nonsense that comes with it. Like, that could be the move for him.
We will see. All right, there's plenty of more where that came from over the course of the next couple of weeks. Good conversation on Goody and his plan and what this offseason brings. I'm super anxious. Free agency starts mid-March, and that is going to really tell us what this Packers season holds. At least what the expectations hold. Could Lucas Van Ness maybe evolve into a game wrecker? Maybe. I mean, I'm not counting on it, but
no, you need another plan there. That's the easy way to.
I agree, but I don't know. Maybe they know something we don't. So, all right, I've been looking forward to this conversation. And I didn't give us a ton of time to have it, but this one's quick because we will reestablish the love line in a couple of months. But I do want to revisit what we set the love line at. If you're just joining us for the first time or don't remember us doing this way back in June, this is prior to Jordan Love signing his contract extension at $55 million a year. But it was after year one. It was, kind of getting to OTA time and almost training camp time. And we were just pondering, okay, if Jordan Love's going to get paid this offseason, and if he is going to truly be the face of the franchise and the future of this franchise, what does year two as a starter have to look like for him? Let's jump in the time machine. Let's take a listen to what we decided the Jordan Love line was for the 2024 season. But the Love line is where I want Jordan Love to live consistently. That's kind of been my word of the offseason, consistency when it comes to Jordan Love in the 2024 season. So it's almost a rankings of sorts. If he plays above it, great. If he plays below it, yuck. The pieces that are established around Tua are an amazing situation. So I think the name we talked about before with Jeff Darlington's comments is below the line. I would say Stroud is above the line. Okay. So Tua and CJ Stroud were the quarterbacks we landed on. Come on, where's the cackle? That's funny to look back on.
That's such Alex Strouf commentary there.
Bro, that's just where we were in the offseason.
I remember people saying that, and I remember telling them that's not good enough. It's interesting that...
Well, hold on a minute.
The trajectory.
So, in terms of passing yards this season, CJ Stroud.
So you're going to have to do Stroud here because Tua didn't do a lot of playing.
CJ Stroud 15th, Jordan Love 19th, Tua 21st. So right in between the line in terms of passing yards for the Love line. Passing touchdowns, Jordan Love 10th, CJ Stroud 15th, and Tua right behind him, just one touchdown less. Completion percentage. Now, this one's a little wacky because you've got guys like Marcus Mariota and Joe Milton in there. Tommy DeVito is towards the top of the list.
Pretty high.
Tua is pretty high. He is tied for he's number one of starting quarterbacks, 72.9%. As you continue to scroll down the list, you see lots and lots and lots of names before you get to CJ Stroud at 27th, 63.2%, and Jordan Love right behind him at 29th at 63.0%. So, in terms of statistically, it's right around that line. Obviously, he was hurt a little bit. Touchdown passes, he had the big win. But, Joshy, something you just said is right. The line we established wasn't good enough, but something we can also admit this season, Jordan Love wasn't good enough. Jordan Love, who I think is going to be a really good quarterback for a long time in this league, had a bad year. For what the Packers need out of their starting quarterback and for what they need for this team to get to that next level, which is back to winning the NFC North and ultimately, hopefully, winning a Super Bowl, is elite level quarterback play. Name a game Jordan Love was elite in this year. Exactly. I can't think of one. He was good in some games. I thought he was really good against Arizona, who wasn't a good team. But other than that, was there a game where we go, wow, Jordan Love was great this week? Nah. At least there's none popping off the page to me, right? That Houston game, he threw 2 interceptions. And that Houston win was probably the Packers' best of the year in terms of quality of team they defeated. But that was a 2-interception game for him. But down the stretch after the bye, he stopped throwing interceptions. But I don't think there was really a game where we were like, wow, Jordan Love was incredible. The storylines this year were more about Josh Jacobs and the defense. So when it comes to, and we won't do this for a couple of months. I want us to sit. I want us to grovel. I want to wait for some of the offseason acquisitions before we establish what the Love line is for 2025. But it's got to be much higher than C.J. Stroud and Tua Tagovailoa, I'll tell you that much. I mean, Joshy, I don't know how you're making fun of me. You were part of that conversation in June.
I don't remember that conversation whatsoever. I think for a quarterback to matter, they need to be top 10 in all of those things, and we can't. The Tua stuff, is that put to bed yet?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
It was of its time, of its situation. That's not really what anybody's looking for at quarterback.
Well, you know what's going to be fun this offseason is the name rather than C.J. Stroud or Tua that's going to come up a lot is Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to figure out also because running for 800 yards, I don't think it's necessarily in Jordan Love's bag.
I don't think so.
I think 250,
look,
you could set a goal.
Nothing against Jordan Love.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's got it in.
Hey, we all got things we're good at.
Yeah.
High jump, not one of mine.
Oh, really? I figured you would be. Have I ever? So I ran cross country in middle school and high school, and we would do off season kind of field day, right? Like before the season really kicks off. So we do like a 40-yard dash. We do some cone drills, do stuff like that. I ever tell you my best 40-yard dash time?
No.
Would you like to guess?
It's probably going to be embarrassing.
5-1-2.
Higher.
Yeah.
5-5.
Here's the thing, because
Higher.
oh geez,
I'm slow. I can do distance. I can't do.
did you get under 6?
No.
Wow.
6'1". 6'1" was my best 40 time ever. I am.
I don't even think that
I don't
passes
really
like
have
the NFL physical.
Yeah, they'd say
You
got
have
something medically wrong.
serious issues, dude. What's wrong with you?
Right, because you always see those high school prospects, and now it's obviously changing. But when you would see 40 times, I remember our high school would do it when they would have their Spark Day, and you'd think the kid was the fastest kid you've ever seen, and it was 4.9.
You're right.
Whoa! So there is a difference there. When you're that young, your body just isn't developed enough. But 6s, there's some big boys at that age running faster than 6s.
No doubt.
Yeah, there is 100 plus 300 pounders going into college this year that run faster than 6.
That's fair. Yeah.
And
I don't want to talk about it.
Were you that tall?
Yeah, I'm 6'3".
Yeah,
I at that point though, I was probably 6'1", 6". But I've got long legs.
You weren't a 5. You weren't a 5'5" kid who grew up over a summer and came back 6'2".
That's fair.
Interesting.
I don't want to talk about it. All right, we do this each and every Wednesday.
Brought it up.
We'll get back to. I know that's my fault. I do that though. I give you guys layups to make fun of me, which maybe makes me an endearing co-host. I don't know.
It makes the show kind of easy.
Yeah, I mean, if I was defensive and said I was the greatest at everything that's ever existed, I don't know. Anyway, all right, let's go to. We do this each and every Wednesday. Hunter comes up with a list of topics, an array of topics. I don't know what they are. I give you a one-word response. We call it One Word Wednesday. Let's rapid fire through some of the topics in sports, maybe some of the topics that have nothing to do with sports. And I will give you one-word reactions to the topics. Sometimes one will catch Joshy's ear, and he'll just yell out a word, which is probably my favorite part of this segment. Let's do a little One Word Wednesday. Hunter?
Well, I'm stealing this from Ryan Wollersheim. I've got some nice Italian music going because Pitt Football, the university, released their schedule for next year, and they did it with different pizzas and the toppings having to do with the teams that they're playing. So I'm going to go through their schedule, and you're going to give me a word for the pizza that they put out. Game number 1, the Duke for Duquesne. It is pierogies, French fries, and coleslaw.
No. It kind of sounds like this is 2 words though. Fish fry. That's what that sounds like to me. Potato, coleslaw. I don't know what's pierogi.
It's like a potato dumpling.
Dumpling?
Yeah.
Oh, yum. That sounds.
Oh, they're
lovely.
so good.
The word is potato.
Game
well,
number
that's also kind of what Duke football is now.
I lived very
potato.
near
Well, Duquesne, not Duke. Duquesne.
Duquesne, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes.
My bad.
I lived near a very famous pierogi spot called Veselka in New York City. Going there, hammered after a few cocktails out in the night, and you go get yourself some pierogies. Ooh. What a day.
they're potato dumplings with
okay.
like cheese or sausage in them. They're so good.
Uh-huh. You can make variety.
I always forget Josh lived in New York. I always forget that. That's fantastic. All right,
cultured.
Keep going, Hunter.
Game number 2, the chip Pawa, potato chips and barbecue sauce. Central Michigan, the Chippewas.
Crunchy. Yeah, that sounds fine. I think potato chips belong on more things than they're on, so I'm good with that. Crunchy is my word.
Love a crunch.
Me too, brother.
Do you put potato chips in your sandwich? I love doing that.
Occasionally, yeah. I'm certainly not anti
Risky
that.
my feeling.
Yeah. Right.
Game 3, the Mountaineer Special. It's a pepperoni roll, and it costs $13.09. Don't know what that's in reference to, but...
I don't really have words for this. I'm just kind of reacting.
Pepperoni roll?
Yeah, 13. I don't get the 1309 thing. Monetary is my word.
Then next we have the Derby City. This is against Louisville. It is a bourbon glazed fried chicken and canned pecans with spinach on a pizza. I'm kind of into it. Minus the pecans.
I'm not. Yeah, you're allergic to nuts. I was surprised by that. Creative? I don't know.
Josh, you look perplexed. Anything?
Yeah, I'm just trying to connect how they all work together. That's what I'm trying to do. Like, I see what you're going for, what they're going for. I wonder if they left some good options out on the table, is what I'm considering.
Game number 5, the Bostonian. This has lobster, roasted peppers, and garlic butter.
Oh. Yeah. Oh,
Delicious.
yeah, baby. Yes. Atlantic.
I wish you would have gotten the ocean wrong. That would have been much better.
Okay, with the awkward silence we had there after I yelled Atlantic, I was like, oh,
Yeah, I had
shoot.
to
Did I
think
get that wrong?
You guys will appreciate this one. For Florida State, the Noel crab legs.
Yep. Jameis.
Is there anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Just a Jameis joke. I like it.
Yep. Pitt at Syracuse, game 7, the orange. Orange chicken, fried rice, and oranges
On a pizza?
on a pizza.
I mean, I'd absolutely try it.
I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah, Chinese. It's Chinese special right there. I get orange chicken every time
Chinese.
Dude, I live right next to a Chinese joint now. I go there 3 times a week. I'm
That's
hooked.
not good for you.
That's probably an exaggeration. Once a week. Their crab rangoons, though, are so good.
Love a goon.
That sounds like the best pizza so far.
Why aren't they doing goon pizzas?
Ooh.
There you go. Game 9, Pitt at Stanford, the tree hugger. California cheese blend, avocado, and arugula.
I thought they were going to make a weed joke for sure.
Yeah. Fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Game 10, the Shamrock. This is for Notre Dame, and it has banger sausage, mashed potatoes, and Irish sauce. No clue what Irish sauce is.
That feels like that's just gravy, right?
It's just bangers and mash, right? I mean, that's
Probably.
exactly what that is. That sounds great. That sounds delicious. I'm in on that.
Here's a perhaps indelicate question.
Oh, geez.
I'm nervous.
Why do people in the United Kingdom eat like that?
Okay, I've seen people make that joke about how England went and tried to conquer the world to go and get spice lanes for trading, and their food is awful. Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Why are they eating beans so much? And why is there so much mashed potatoes? Why is there... I don't get it.
Yeah, that country makes no sense. Game 11, the Yellow Jacket. Obviously, Georgia Tech. Peaches and hot honey.
In.
Yeah, I'm into.
Yeah.
I put hot honey on all my pizzas, so I'm good with that.
And then one last one for Miami, the
Hold
Cuban.
on, real quick. Would it be hot honey as like the tomato sauce, do you think?
No, I think it's probably a drizzle on like a whiter sauce base.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They
Yeah,
don't
yeah, I
show
can
the
get down with
sauce
that
on
then.
any of these. So, like, I don't know what's underneath
All right.
it.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think they're just putting classic marinara.
Yeah,
in
I was going to say that would be weird.
Wouldn't work too well.
But peaches on a pizza? Okay, interesting. Sorry, Hunter. Go ahead. Last one.
Last one for Miami, and this one is an absolute yes for me. The Cuban pork, ham, Swiss cheese, pickles.
Huh.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going for a Cuban sandwich.
Yeah.
Yep. I'd do it. I've had a
Pig.
Reuben pizza before, so I'd do a Cuban.
Yeah. If I
had a Reuben today. Shout out our friends at Cousin Subs.
if I go to a pizza shop, I am getting the unique pizza. I don't want just sausage pep. I want the buffalo chicken, the barbecue chicken.
See,
The dill pickle pizza, I will.
you're getting
try.
a whole pizza or you're getting just a slice?
Yeah, oh yeah, brother. Holza.
Oh, yeah, brother.
Okay. So I guess it depends on where I'm at. But like the local when I lived in Madison, I lived right by a local pizza joint. And I always got their mac and cheese pizza. No, I am not referring to the one on the college campus that's by the slice.
Look, man, I'll shout the place out. I don't care. Free advertising. Sugar River Pizza is incredible. That's where
Yes,
I had the
that's
Reuben pizza.
that's exactly who I'm referring
Love
to.
that place. I don't care. I'll give them the free advertising.
So they did a specialty pie really, really well. But I'm always nervous going to local pizza joints and going outside of so my go-to pizza is as simple as this. Pepperoni, bacon, jalapenos. That's my go-to pizza. If I'm trying a local place for the first time, that's the pizza I'm ordering. Because if you do that well, I'm willing to try other things. So there you go. Wow, what a journey that was on One Word Wednesday.
I have a question about your pizza takes here now. Because, of course, I'm a big guy. I have food takes. You're going to trust, a joint random place to have, weird pizzas then? Or is it just you don't trust weird pizzas anywhere?
No, I do. I think I have to have a relationship, though. I'm
gotta test
I'm
the
not
water
diving into the
first.
deep end.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
I'm not diving into the deep end. Unless, I've heard through word of mouth, right? Like Hunter or Joshy, if you go, hey, I had the buffalo chicken pizza at this place. It's the best buffalo chicken pizza I've ever had. Then I would probably, because you're validating that, okay, this place is good,
Okay.
right? So, but if I am just on a whim, when I moved to Milwaukee, I moved downtown, so I'm trying to figure out the places that are near me, that are walkable, that I don't have to pay for delivery for. So I'm probably going to go, the pizza joint's right by me. I'm going pepperoni, bacon, jalapeno right off the rip. And if that's good, then maybe I will, I'll swim a little deeper next time I go. So that's kind of my go-to on a pizza place. But anyway. All right. A couple minutes left. As we always do, you learn something new every day. We learn something new today. It's time now for What We Learned. As always, I'm going to throw the ball up. Who wants it? I bet Joshy doesn't have one.
Sure don't.
Okay. Hunter, you got one?
I've talked about it a little bit here, but I'm getting really fed up with the Dallas Cowboys. Stephen Jones.
But did you learn that? I feel like you've always been that way.
What I've learned is that Stephen Jones is as bad as Jerry Jones. So they have their press conference.
Maybe worse.
Oh, it's so bad. They have their press conference to announce Schottenheimer being named as their new head coach. Okay, fine, whatever. But then Steven is talking to the media, and he gives this condescending air quotes of saying, well, some people say that we're in a drought. My brother in Christ, you haven't been to an NFC championship game in now 29 years. What are you talking about? I haven't seen a sprinkle as a fan in 29 years. And you're saying that everyone else says that it's a drought. I don't see it that way. Shut up, dude. I used to try to defend that man and say, once Jerry's gone, they'll be fine. He drafted Zach Martin instead of Johnny Manziel. I can't say that anymore. He's as delusional as his father. It's so bad. I'm never going to see the Cowboys win another Super Bowl. I'm so tired of it. I'm ready to be done, but I can't. They're my team. I'm stuck. I'm here. I'm going to keep. I want them to win. I want them to do better, but they won't. It's awful. I hate it. I'm miserable. That man sucks. Jerry Jones sucks. I'm tired of it. Not a drought, my ass.
Speaking of people sucking,
Uh-oh.
Oh, jeez.
Brett Bielema, did you see him randomly attacking Jim Harbaugh?
No, why?
What?
Last night, he decided to retweet a video of Jim Harbaugh at his time with the 49ers and say it was something Jim Harbaugh. Let me pull it up really quick. Jim Harbaugh said, "If you cheat to win, then you've already lost." Bielema responded, "Really? Why did you leave? Was looking forward to playing, but understand why you ran to the NFL. See you in the future and can't wait."
Whoa.
It begs two questions. Why are you beefing with Jim Harbaugh in January?
Of 2025, by the way.
Yeah.
He's been the head coach there in a year.
Did you realize that quote wasn't like live? That was from years previous when he was the head coach of the...
I would imagine Brett Bielema knows the 49ers logo versus the Chargers logo, right?
I don't think so, given...
Because he's wearing a 49ers hat in the video you're referring to.
Correct.
Bielema got by the fake Netflix documentary about running back U and how he wasn't interviewed for it when it was just some fan that made a Photoshop Netflix poster. Like, I don't think Bielema knows how the internet works. So I think he genuinely thought that was him at Michigan.
Yeah, I think he just saw the quote and reacted to it as if it was in real time and probably a response. Because, like, the video he quoted is 18 hours ago. So obviously this was about the, like, report that came out that the NCAA was doing about them. But then just decided to... it's very odd.
That is very odd.
Him and his wife should stay off the internet.
What does wife do?
What?
You don't remember this? Karma?
I can't.
Google Brett Bielema karma.
Oh
Boy. Okay, Brett Bielema.
I believe it was
karma.
after, it might have been the kneeling situation in the bowl game, but after one of those, she tweeted out karma after Wisconsin Badgers lost.
That's right.
Removing
2013 tweet, by the way.
Removing the fact
12
that
years ago.
Brett Bielema elected to leave Wisconsin. He was
not fired.
So who is the karma for?
It's a great question. Yeah. All right. Enough on Bielema. Bert. We'll never forget you, Bert. Something I learned, nepotism doesn't always work. So Bronny James not having the hottest go in the NBA right now, and JJ Redick attempting to fall on the sword. So in the middle of the Lakers road trip, Bronny James was called up from the G League, and he was playing well in the G League, but then proceeded to play 15 minutes last night, went 0 for 5, and had 3 turnovers. And JJ Redick, speaking after the game, he's like, I wanted him to give us energy, yada, yada, yada. Very bad. So nepotism doesn't always work out. So that's what I've learned. Don't think his NBA career is going to pan out very well.
I don't get the, like, JJ Redick feeling the need to fall on the sword there. Like, we all know what's going on, JJ. We get it. LeBron wants his son closer and around and in the NBA with him. It's okay. You don't have to, like, say anything. Just be like, hey, he had a tough night, or just leave it at that.
It's pretty easy.
Yes, it is.
He has a job because of LeBron. So whatever it takes to appease LeBron is the way you're going. He probably won't have a job after this year because of LeBron. So
also accurate.
Wait a
also
second.
Accurate.
Aren't they, like, doing pretty well? Or am I just completely misremembering the standings? I'm looking at yeah, they're the 5 seed.
I mean, they're fine. I mean, but they're only what, two and a half games ahead of being out of the play-in. The middle of the Western Conference is really crowded.
They're 6 games back of the 2 seed in January. Like, they're fine. I'm going to defend JJ Redick and LeBron here for a second against Josh.
Oh wow!
Like, JJ's
Josh,
doing a fine job year one. Like, it's
look. Hold on a minute. It's the NBA. If you have Anthony Davis and LeBron James and Austin Reeves, given the year he's had, who's, by the way, he's evolved into a great player in the NBA.
Who they had before, and they weren't as good as they are now.
If you don't win championships with LeBron at 40, you failed. That is just the nature of being a part of the Lakers.
It's true. I won't argue with that.
That is just, it's, every year he doesn't win is less likely to cement his legacy even further. That's what they're going for.
Levante David of the Buccaneers is currently on SportsCenter, and for whatever reason, they just showed a highlight of
Squirrel.
Kevin King getting burned. Squirrel.
Scotty Miller.
Yeah,
I'm going to guess they're probably talking
It was a
about
different game, I think.
Oh, wow.
Oh, he got burned. Oh, that's right.
It was
He
not the
did get
championship
burned.
game.
That week 2 game that they played there. He got burned a lot.
Good for Kevin King. Kind of made his way back in the league this year, and then didn't, but he did at one point. I wish the best for him. Bad Packer. That's my final thought on this Wednesday. We're back with you Friday beginning at 12:30. ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison on YouTube. Joshy, Hunter, myself back with you Friday as we continue to work through this Packers offseason and the rumor mill that I'm sure will continue to spin over the course of the next 48 hours. We'll talk to you Friday. Peace.